settle into the sleepy mind channel, where tonight we uncover the remarkable story behind aged ceremonial grade matcha tea, one of the world's most carefully crafted foods. Unlike almost every other tea, ceremonial matcha begins its journey by growing in darkness. Weeks before harvest, entire tea fields are covered with enormous shade screens, forcing the plants to completely change their chemistry. Their leaves become richer in chlorophyll, sweeter in flavor, and filled with amino acids that create the smooth, savory taste known as umami. What appears to be a simple green powder is actually the result of remarkable botanical science that farmers quietly perfected over hundreds of years. The extraordinary journey has only just begun. Once harvested, the youngest spring leaves are steamed within hours to preserve their brilliant emerald color, carefully dried, stripped of every stem and vein, and transformed into a delicate tea known as tencha. Some of the finest producers then allow those leaves to rest under carefully controlled conditions before they are ever ground into powder. Finally, ancient granite stone mills turn so slowly that an entire hour of grinding produces barely enough matcha for only a handful of bowls. Every stage rejects speed in favor of patience, proving that some of nature's finest creations can only emerge when nothing is rushed. If you enjoy videos like these, feel free to like and subscribe. For all night listening, be sure to check out the playlist, where you'll find many more relaxing journeys through history, science, nature, and the remarkable stories hidden within our world. New sleep stories are posted every other day. Most people recognize ceremonial matcha for its vibrant green color, but very few know why it became one of Japan's greatest agricultural achievements. Behind every bowl stand centuries of careful observation, mountain farmers who learned to work with nature instead of against it, Buddhist monks who helped shape its traditions, master craftsmen who refused to sacrifice quality for speed, and generations of tea growers who slowly discovered that the smallest changes in light, temperature, timing, and patience could completely transform a single leaf. Long before scientists understood chlorophyll, amino acids, photosynthesis, or antioxidants, tea growers had already discovered that careful shading, precise harvesting, and patient craftsmanship consistently produced a sweeter, smoother, more vibrant tea. Unlike black tea, which is allowed to oxidize until its leaves darken and develop rich, multi-flavors, ceremonial matcha remains a true green tea from beginning to end. Oxidation is halted almost immediately after harvest through gentle steaming, preserving the vivid green color and delicate compounds hidden inside every leaf. Unlike loose-leaf teas that are steeped briefly before the leaves are discarded, matcha is whisked directly into water, meaning every cultivated leaf becomes part of the drink itself. The entire plant, with all of its natural chemistry, is consumed rather than simply infused. That single difference transforms matcha into an experience unlike almost any other tea in the world. Inside each tiny leaf, an invisible world of remarkable chemistry is constantly unfolding. Sunlight fuels photosynthesis, while roots draw water and minerals upward through delicate tissues. Thousands of microscopic reactions occur every second as the plant produces sugars for energy, amino acids for growth, protective antioxidants, fragrant aromatic compounds, and the brilliant chlorophyll responsible for its unforgettable emerald color. Every change in temperature, every passing cloud, every drop of rain, and every hour of sunlight influences the chemistry developing inside those fragile leaves. The finest ceremonial matcha is not created after harvest alone. It begins weeks, months, and even years earlier as the tea plants slowly respond to the world around them. The farmers who cultivate Japan's finest tea gardens have spent generations learning to guide these natural processes without forcing them. They cannot command the weather, nor can they persuade a leaf to mature before it is ready. Instead, they work alongside nature with patience. They study the soil beneath their feet, observe the morning mist drifting through the valleys, monitor rainfall throughout the seasons, and watch each flush of new spring growth. Their work depends less on speed than on timing. A harvest that begins only a few days too early or too late can subtly change the balance of flavor waiting inside every leaf. Some of the finest ceremonial matcha comes from the hills surrounding Uji, just south of Kyoto, where the landscape itself seems perfectly suited for growing exceptional tea. Gentle mountains shelter the gardens from harsh winds, while cool nights and abundant rainfall create ideal growing conditions. Morning fog often settles across the valleys, naturally protecting the young leaves from intense sunlight before slowly lifting as the day begins. Rich soils provide a steady supply of minerals, while generations of skilled growers continue tending many of the same landscapes that have produced celebrated teas for centuries. Walking through these gardens at sunrise, the rows of pruned tea bushes seem to stretch endlessly across the hillsides, their deep green leaves sparkling with dew beneath the soft morning light. Yet even here, surrounded by ideal conditions, nature alone does not create ceremonial matcha. The most important transformation has not happened yet. Several weeks before the spring harvest, entire tea gardens gradually disappear beneath constructed shade. Large woven bamboo screens were once used almost exclusively, while many modern producers now rely upon specially designed shade cloths that achieve the same effect with precision. Day by day, the amount of sunlight reaching the plants is dramatically reduced. Instead of slowing the plants toward weakness, this controlled darkness encourages one of the most chemical transformations found anywhere in agriculture. The leaves begin producing even greater amounts of chlorophyll. Their green color deepens dramatically. Valuable amino acids continue accumulating. Bitterness softens, and the rich, savory flavor known as umami becomes increasingly pronounced. Tonight, we'll follow that remarkable journey from beginning to end. We'll travel back thousands of years to the ancient origins of tea before it crossed the sea into Japan. We'll discover how Buddhist monks helped shape one of the world's most enduring tea traditions, why mountain landscapes became home to the finest tea gardens, how invisible chemistry transforms each leaf beneath filtered light, and why some of the most advanced food science on Earth still depends upon methods that have changed very little for centuries. Tea has accompanied humanity for thousands of years, yet its story began long before anyone thought to warm water over a fire or shape delicate ceramic bowls. Long before temples overlooked misty valleys, before merchants carried precious leaves across mountain passes, and before tea masters refined graceful ceremonies into works of quiet art, there was simply a wild evergreen plant growing among the forests of southwestern China. There, in a landscape of steep mountains, fertile valleys, and warm seasonal rains, the ancestors of today's tea plants flourished for countless generations. Their glossy leaves absorbed sunlight, drew nutrients from rich soils, and followed the same natural rhythms shared by countless other plants. At first glance, nothing about them suggested they would eventually influence the daily lives of millions of people across the world. The tea plant belongs to a species known as Camellia sinensis, an evergreen shrub whose remarkable chemistry has fascinated people for centuries. Unlike annual crops that must be replanted each year, healthy tea plants can continue producing new leaves for decades, and some maintained specimens remain productive for well over a century. Their deep roots anchor them securely within the soil, while searching for water and dissolved minerals hidden beneath the surface. New growth appears each spring as tender shoots emerge from the ends of pruned branches, producing the delicate leaves most prized by tea growers. Those young leaves contain the highest concentration of many of the compounds that create tea's distinctive flavor, aroma, and vibrant color. The regions where tea thrives naturally share several important characteristics. Gentle rainfall keeps the soil consistently moist without becoming waterlogged. Mild temperatures prevent the plants from suffering prolonged periods of extreme heat or severe frost. Mountain slopes provide excellent drainage, allowing excess water to flow away while fresh air circulates freely around the bushes. Rich organic soils slowly release nutrients that support healthy growth year after year. When all of these conditions come together, the tea plant responds with vigorous new leaves whose quality reflects the landscape in which they were grown. Even today, experienced tea farmers often speak about the land itself almost as though it were another partner in the growing process. They understand that no two hillsides produce identical harvests. A field facing the morning sun may develop differently from one shaded by a nearby forest. Slight differences in elevation can influence nighttime temperatures, morning fog, and the length of the growing season. One valley may receive just enough additional rainfall to encourage particularly tender leaves, while another benefits from mineral-rich soils left behind by ancient volcanic activity. These subtle variations are impossible to see by simply looking across the landscape, yet they shape every harvest. Long before chemistry explained these differences, generations of growers noticed them through careful observation. They remembered which slopes consistently produced sweeter leaves, which areas responded best after unusually wet springs, and which gardens yielded exceptional harvests following cool mountain mornings filled with drifting mist. Each harvest added another small lesson, and together, those lessons slowly refined the art of growing exceptional tea. As tea became increasingly valued, people naturally began selecting plants that displayed especially desirable characteristics. Bushes producing sweeter, more delicate leaves were propagated. Those demonstrating resilience against changing weather or disease were preserved. Modern cultivars still belong to the same ancient species, yet each has been chosen for particular qualities. Some produce deeper flavors, others develop richer aromas, brighter colors, or greater concentrations of the amino acids prized in ceremonial matcha. Choosing the right cultivar became every bit as important as choosing the right mountain on which to grow it. The tea plant itself grows at a surprisingly measured pace. Unlike crops harvested all at once, tea continually produces new flushes of leaves throughout the growing season. The most prized harvest usually arrives during spring, when cool temperatures and steady rainfall encourage especially tender new growth. These first young leaves contain a remarkable balance of natural sugars, amino acids, chlorophyll, and aromatic compounds that have been accumulating throughout the plant's winter rest. Their texture is softer, their flavor more delicate, and their chemistry particularly well suited for producing the finest ceremonial matcha. Watching those first leaves appear each spring has long been one of the most anticipated moments of the year in Japan's great tea-growing regions. Farmers walk slowly through the gardens, examining each bush with practiced eyes. They are not simply looking for green leaves. They are judging countless subtle details at once: the size of the buds, the color of the new growth, the spacing between leaves, the recent weather, the condition of the soil, and the forecast for the coming days all influence the decisions that follow. Every observation contributes to a harvest schedule, measured not by the calendar alone, but by the plants themselves. It is this patience that separates exceptional ceremonial matcha from ordinary tea. The greatest growers understand that they are not manufacturing a product. They are guiding a living plant through one of the most delicate stages of its annual life cycle. Their role is not to force nature forward, but to recognize precisely when nature is ready. That philosophy of careful timing has remained largely unchanged for centuries, and it continues to define the highest standards of ceremonial matcha today. Soon, however, the tea gardens undergo a transformation unlike anything found in the production of almost any other beverage. Just as the young leaves begin approaching their finest condition, the sunlight that has nourished them since the beginning of spring is deliberately taken away. Vast shade structures gradually spread across the fields, changing not only the appearance of the landscape, but the chemistry unfolding inside every leaf. It is here that the remarkable science behind ceremonial matcha truly begins to reveal itself. For many centuries, the story of tea belonged almost entirely to China, where its cultivation gradually spread from remote mountain regions into villages, monasteries, and eventually great cities. What may have begun as a simple plant gathered from the wild slowly became woven into everyday life. Tea was appreciated not only for its refreshing qualities, but also for the quiet moments it created. Preparing it encouraged people to slow their pace, heat fresh water with care, and gather together in conversation. Over generations, knowledge surrounding the plant expanded from simple cultivation into a sophisticated understanding of soils, harvest seasons, processing techniques, and the subtle differences that distinguished one growing region from another. As tea became increasingly valued, it naturally found its way into Buddhist monasteries scattered throughout the mountains of China. Monks often spent long hours reading sacred texts, meditating, and maintaining disciplined daily routines. Tea offered gentle refreshment, without the heaviness associated with larger meals, allowing practitioners to remain alert during extended periods of study and contemplation. Over time, preparing and sharing tea became associated with mindfulness itself. Every movement could be performed deliberately. Every sound, from the soft bubbling of water to the quiet placing of a bowl upon a wooden table, became part of an atmosphere that encouraged calm attention rather than distraction. These simple traditions would eventually travel far beyond the mountains where they first developed. During the early years of the 13th century, Japanese Buddhist monks journeyed to China seeking religious knowledge, sacred writings, and opportunities to study with respected teachers. Among them was a monk named Aisai, who would play one of the most important roles in the history of Japanese tea. While living in China, he observed not only Buddhist teachings, but also the growing importance of tea within monastic life. He recognized that the drink complemented meditation by encouraging alertness while preserving a sense of calm, qualities that fit naturally within the disciplined routines practiced by monks. When he returned to Japan, he brought with him both tea seeds and a deep appreciation for the culture that surrounded them. Those small seeds represented far more than a new agricultural crop. They carried with them centuries of accumulated knowledge that would eventually evolve into something uniquely Japanese. Eisai encouraged the cultivation of tea in suitable regions, believing that it offered both practical and spiritual benefits. He even wrote about tea, praising its value and encouraging its wider use. At first, tea remained closely connected with monasteries, where monks tended the young plants while continuing the traditions they had learned abroad. Gradually, however, its popularity spread beyond temple walls into the lives of scholars, members of the nobility, and eventually wider Japanese society. Japan proved to be an ideal home for tea cultivation. Certain regions offered cool climates, abundant rainfall, fertile soils, and mountain landscapes well suited to the evergreen shrubs. Over time, growers began recognizing that different locations produced noticeably different harvests. Some valleys consistently yielded sweeter leaves, while others developed especially pleasing aromas or deeper green color. Careful observation gradually revealed which combinations of climate, elevation, soil, and seasonal weather produced the finest results. Each generation added new understanding, slowly refining techniques that would distinguish Japanese tea from its Chinese origins. Among the regions that gained particular renown was Uji, located just south of Kyoto. Sheltered by surrounding hills and blessed with fertile land, Uji possessed an exceptional combination of natural advantages. Morning mists frequently drifted across its valleys, softening the sunlight during the early hours of the day. Rivers supplied fresh water, while nearby forests helped moderate temperature and protect the gardens from strong winds. These conditions created an environment where tea plants flourished with remarkable consistency, allowing growers to focus not only on healthy harvests, but on steadily improving quality. Over the centuries, Uji became synonymous with some of the finest tea produced anywhere in Japan, a reputation it continues to hold today. As tea growing expanded, Japanese cultivators did not simply imitate the methods brought from China. Instead, they experimented patiently, adapting techniques to suit their own landscapes and traditions. Small adjustments were made from one harvest to the next. Growers noticed how pruning influenced new spring growth. They observed the effects of rainfall, changing temperatures, and harvest timing. Certain practices were abandoned when they failed to improve quality, while others were preserved because they consistently produced sweeter, smoother leaves. Progress rarely came through dramatic discoveries. More often it emerged from hundreds of tiny improvements accumulated across generations, each one building upon the careful observations of those who had come before. This patient refinement reflected a broader philosophy that gradually became deeply rooted within Japanese craftsmanship. Excellence was rarely viewed as the result of rushing toward innovation. Instead, it emerged through continuous improvement, thoughtful repetition, and profound respect for natural processes that could not be hurried. Whether shaping wood, forging steel, cultivating gardens, or growing tea, craftsmen learned that mastery often depended less upon changing nature than upon understanding it. The tea gardens became living examples of that philosophy, where success was measured not only by the quantity of leaves harvested, but by the quiet perfection found within each individual leaf. By the time tea had become firmly established throughout Japan, it had already begun evolving into something far more significant than a simple beverage. Yet one of the greatest discoveries still lay ahead. Farmers would eventually learn that by changing one element of the growing environment just weeks before harvest, they could transform the chemistry of the leaves in ways. The practice would become one of the defining characteristics of ceremonial matcha, producing its unmistakable color, remarkable flavor, and unique character. Before those shaded fields appeared across the mountainsides, however, growers first needed to understand the remarkable biology of the tea plant itself. The tea plant itself appears modest. Left to grow naturally, it becomes a dense evergreen shrub with glossy dark green leaves and small white flowers that bloom during the cooler months of the year. In the wild, some tea plants may eventually reach the height of a small tree, yet those cultivated for the finest ceremonial matcha are maintained at a much lower height. Their rounded shape allows sunlight to reach the growing tips evenly, while making each new spring harvest accessible to skilled hands. From a distance, an established tea garden resembles a sea of perfectly trimmed green waves flowing across the contours of the surrounding hills. Unlike many agricultural crops that complete their life cycle within a single season, tea plants are remarkable for their longevity. Once established, they continue producing new growth year after year, gradually developing deeper root systems that anchor them securely within the soil. Those roots perform far more than a simple structural role. Hidden beneath the surface, they explore an intricate underground world, absorbing water along with dissolved minerals that slowly rise into every branch and leaf. Calcium, potassium, nitrogen, magnesium, and countless trace elements all become part of the plant's living chemistry. The flavor that will eventually fill a single bowl of ceremonial matcha begins not in the leaf itself, but deep below the ground, where invisible roots patiently gather the raw materials required for growth. Above the soil, every leaf functions as a sophisticated solar collector. Sunlight strikes its surface, where countless microscopic structures capture energy that powers photosynthesis. Using that energy, the plant combines water drawn upward from its roots with carbon dioxide absorbed from the surrounding air, producing the sugars that fuel every stage of its growth. This process occurs continuously throughout the daylight hours, sustaining not only the tea plant, but nearly all life on Earth. Every forest, grassland, and cultivated field depends upon this same elegant partnership between sunlight, water, air, and living cells. Inside each leaf are thousands of tiny compartments known as chloroplasts, each filled with chlorophyll, the remarkable green pigment responsible for capturing sunlight. Chlorophyll is so effective at absorbing the red and blue wavelengths of light that it reflects much of the green, giving healthy plants their familiar color. Yet chlorophyll is far more than a simple pigment. It is one of the most important molecules in nature, allowing plants to transform the energy of sunlight into the chemical energy that supports nearly every food chain on the planet. Without chlorophyll, forests would never grow, crops would never mature, and the oxygen that fills Earth's atmosphere would steadily disappear. As the tea plant grows, it also manufactures an astonishing variety of other compounds that influence both its own survival and the experience of those who eventually drink it. Some serve as natural defenses against insects or grazing animals. Others help protect delicate tissues from excessive sunlight or changing temperatures. Certain compounds contribute fragrance, while others influence bitterness, sweetness, or the rich, savory quality that tea experts describe as umami. Although these substances exist in microscopic quantities, together they create an incredibly complex flavor profile that no single ingredient could ever achieve alone. Among the most important of these compounds is an amino acid known as L-theanine. While amino acids are often recognized as the building blocks of proteins, L-theanine possesses characteristics that make it especially significant within tea. It contributes a gentle sweetness and smoothness that balances the sharper flavors produced by other naturally occurring compounds. The presence of L-theanine helps create the mellow character associated with the finest ceremonial matcha, giving the tea a richness that lingers pleasantly without becoming harsh. Modern laboratories can measure its concentration with precision, yet tea growers had recognized its effects centuries before anyone understood the chemistry involved. Working alongside L-theanine are naturally occurring compounds called catechins. These belong to a larger family of plant chemicals known as polyphenols, substances produced by many plants as part of their natural defense systems. Catechins contribute brightness, freshness, and a gentle bitterness that balances the sweeter amino acids. When these compounds remain in careful harmony, the resulting tea possesses remarkable depth and complexity. Too much bitterness can overwhelm the palate, while too little leaves the tea tasting flat. Producing exceptional ceremonial matcha therefore depends upon maintaining an unusually delicate balance between these naturally occurring chemicals. That balance begins forming long before harvest. Throughout the growing season, the tea plant continually adjusts its chemistry in response to the surrounding environment. Bright sunlight encourages certain compounds to increase, while cooler temperatures may favor others. Rainfall influences growth rates, and the availability of nutrients within the soil affects countless biochemical pathways operating inside every leaf. The plant is never static. It is constantly responding, adapting, and reshaping its internal chemistry as conditions change from one day to the next. Tea growers learn to read these subtle responses with skill. Walking slowly through the gardens, they could often recognize small differences invisible to untrained eyes. The shade of green displayed by the leaves, the firmness of new shoots, the spacing between emerging buds, and even the texture of the leaf surface all offered valuable clues about the plant's condition. These observations guided important decisions throughout the growing season, allowing farmers to respond thoughtfully rather than relying upon fixed schedules alone. Their understanding grew from decades of direct experience, comparing one harvest with the next until patterns gradually became clear. By late winter, the tea bushes begin preparing for one of the most important moments of the entire year. As temperatures slowly rise and daylight gradually lengthens, dormant buds awaken along the pruned branches. New shoots begin expanding with remarkable speed, drawing upon nutrients stored within the plant during the previous growing season. These first tender leaves represent the finest growth the tea plant will produce all year. Their tissues remain soft and delicate, their chemistry exceptionally balanced, and their vibrant appearance reflects months of careful preparation. Experienced growers watch this stage with particular attention, because the timing of everything that follows depends upon these young leaves reaching exactly the right stage of development. It is during these precious weeks when the tea plants appear healthiest beneath the returning spring sunshine that growers make one of the most surprising decisions in all of agriculture. Rather than giving the plants even more light to encourage rapid growth, they begin preparing to take that light away. Large frameworks rise above the gardens, woven screens are positioned, and entire fields gradually disappear beneath deep shade. To anyone unfamiliar with ceremonial matcha, the practice seems almost impossible to understand. Yet this deliberate reduction of sunlight marks the beginning of the transformation that turns an ordinary green tea into one of the world's finest ceremonial matcha. For most crops, reducing sunlight would seem like the last thing a farmer would ever choose to do. More light generally means more photosynthesis, faster growth, and larger harvests. Across much of the agricultural world, maximizing sunlight has always been considered one of the simplest ways to encourage healthy plants. Corn stretches toward open skies, vineyards are pruned to expose grape clusters to the sun, and fruit growers often shape their trees, so every branch receives as much light as possible. Tea farmers producing ceremonial matcha, however, deliberately follow an entirely different path, one that appears to contradict everything we might expect about helping a plant grow. Approximately 3 to 4 weeks before the spring harvest, constructed shade systems begin appearing above the tea gardens. In centuries past, these structures were built almost entirely from bamboo poles, supporting woven straw mats or bundles of reeds. Constructing them required tremendous labor, as each section had to be assembled by hand, while ensuring that the fragile tea bushes beneath remained undisturbed. Modern producers often use specially engineered black shade cloths stretched across lightweight frames, allowing growers to regulate the amount of sunlight reaching the plants with precision. Although the materials have changed, the purpose remains exactly the same as it was hundreds of years ago. As the shade spreads across the fields, the entire landscape begins to change. The bright sparkle of spring sunshine gives way to a softer emerald light filtering through the coverings above. Temperatures beneath the shade become slightly cooler during the day, while moisture lingers longer around the leaves each morning. The gardens take on an almost dreamlike appearance, as though they have been wrapped inside a quiet green sanctuary where time itself seems to slow. Walking between the rows beneath these shaded canopies feels very different from standing in an ordinary tea field. The air is calmer, the light gentler, and every leaf seems to glow with an increasingly rich shade of green. Inside the plants, however, remarkable changes are taking place. Deprived of their usual supply of sunlight, the tea bushes respond exactly as evolution has prepared them to do. The leaves begin increasing their production of chlorophyll, allowing them to capture as much of the limited available light as possible. This natural response gives ceremonial matcha its famous brilliant emerald color. The deeper green is not created artificially during processing or added afterward. It is the direct result of the living plant adjusting its own biology in response to controlled shade. At the same time, another equally important transformation begins unfolding within the leaves. Under full sunlight, many amino acids naturally produced by the tea plant are gradually converted into compounds that contribute stronger bitterness. By reducing the amount of light reaching the leaves, growers slow that conversion considerably. As a result, greater quantities of L-theanine remain within the developing shoots, preserving the smooth, sweet, almost creamy character that distinguishes exceptional ceremonial matcha from ordinary green tea. The plant is not being forced into an unnatural state. It is simply responding to its environment in a way that growers have patiently learned to guide over many centuries. This careful balance requires precision. Too little shading produces leaves that never fully develop the desired richness of color or flavor. Too much shading, or shading applied for too long, can weaken the plants and reduce the overall quality of the harvest. Experienced growers therefore monitor the gardens almost continuously throughout these crucial weeks. They observe the changing color of the leaves, measure weather conditions, and adjust their techniques according to the season. Every year is slightly different. A cooler spring may require one approach, while warmer conditions demand another. There is no single formula that guarantees perfection. Instead, success depends upon understanding both the plants and the changing moods of nature. Generations of tea farmers have often described this relationship as one of cooperation rather than control. They recognize that the tea plants remain living organisms responding to countless environmental influences beyond human command. Rainfall arrives according to its own schedule. Clouds pass overhead without regard for harvest plans. Temperatures rise and fall with the change in seasons. Rather than struggling against these natural rhythms, the finest growers have learned to work alongside them, making careful adjustments that encourage the plants to reveal their greatest potential. Their role is not to overpower nature, but to guide it. As harvest time approaches, anticipation builds throughout the tea gardens. The young shoots have now reached the stage that growers have been preparing for since the previous season ended. Their leaves possess an intense green color, unlike almost any other cultivated crop. Soft to the touch and filled with the chemistry created by weeks beneath the shade, they represent the culmination of months of patient work. Every decision made throughout the year has led to this moment. The condition of the soil, the timing of pruning, the amount of rainfall, the careful placement of shade, and the watchful attention of experienced farmers have all combined to shape these delicate new leaves. Unlike many commercial crops harvested by large machines sweeping rapidly across the fields, the finest ceremonial matcha still begins with selectivity. Only the youngest and most tender spring growth is suitable for producing the highest grades. These first flush leaves contain the finest balance of amino acids, chlorophyll, delicate aromas, and subtle sweetness. Their freshness is so important that growers plan the harvest to ensure the leaves reach the processing facilities as quickly as possible. Once picked, the quiet race against time begins, because every passing hour brings subtle changes that could influence the remarkable tea those leaves are destined to become. Harvest season arrives during one of the busiest and most coordinated times of the entire year. Unlike crops that can often remain in the field for extended periods after reaching maturity, ceremonial matcha demands precise timing. The youngest leaves are at their finest for only a relatively short window before they continue developing into larger, tougher foliage, better suited for lower grades of tea. Every morning, experienced growers walk through the shaded gardens, examining the new growth one final time before harvesting begins. Years of experience allow them to recognize subtle differences that would escape nearly everyone else. The tenderness of the leaves, their color, their size, and even the way they catch the morning light all provide quiet confirmation that the moment has arrived. The earliest hours of the day are often the most peaceful. Cool mountain air still lingers above the gardens, while thin ribbons of mist drift between the rows of shaded bushes. Dew clings to every leaf, reflecting soft hints of morning sunlight filtering through the shade structures above. Workers move through the fields, carrying shallow baskets designed to protect the fragile harvest. There is little conversation. Every person understands the importance of handling the leaves gently, because bruising or unnecessary pressure can begin altering the delicate chemistry that has taken weeks to develop beneath the shade. For the highest grades of ceremonial matcha, only the youngest shoots are selected. These tender leaves sit at the very tips of each branch, representing the newest growth produced during the spring season. They are softer than the older leaves below, richer in chlorophyll, and contain the greatest concentration of the amino acids responsible for matcha's smooth, mellow character. Harvesters work with care, selecting only these finest portions, while leaving the remaining plant healthy enough to continue growing throughout the rest of the season. Every movement reflects the understanding that quality has always been valued above quantity. Even today, many of Japan's most respected producers continue harvesting premium ceremonial matcha by hand. Although modern machinery has become increasingly sophisticated and is widely used for many types of tea, hand harvesting still offers a level of selectivity that machines cannot fully duplicate. Skilled workers choose each shoot individually, ensuring that only leaves meeting the highest standards enter the ceremonial grade harvest. This slower approach requires significantly more time and labor, yet the resulting consistency remains one of the defining characteristics of exceptional matcha. The importance of freshness cannot be overstated. From the moment the leaves are removed from the plant, natural enzymes inside their cells continue carrying out chemical reactions. Left unchecked, those reactions would gradually alter the vibrant green color, delicate aroma, and balanced flavor that growers have worked so patiently to create. Every minute becomes valuable. The freshly picked leaves are gathered into shallow containers that prevent crushing under their own weight before being transported quickly from the gardens to nearby processing facilities. The journey is intentionally kept as short as possible, preserving the remarkable condition of the harvest. Almost immediately after arriving, the leaves enter one of the most important stages of the entire process. Rather than allowing them to oxidize naturally, as would happen when producing black tea or many oolong teas, ceremonial matcha undergoes gentle steaming within hours of harvest. This brief exposure to steam serves an important purpose. It quickly deactivates the enzymes responsible for oxidation, effectively freezing much of the leaf's chemistry in the state it possessed at the moment it was picked. The brilliant emerald color remains intact, delicate aromas are preserved, and the balanced compounds developed beneath the shade are protected from unnecessary change. The steaming itself lasts only a short time, yet its effects influence every bowl of matcha that will eventually be prepared from those leaves. Too little steaming allows oxidation to continue, gradually dulling both color and flavor. Too much steaming risks damaging the fragile tissues and altering the tea's delicate character. Producers therefore monitor this stage with exceptional precision, adjusting timing according to the condition of each harvest. Centuries of refinement have shown that success depends upon preserving the natural qualities of the leaf, rather than overpowering them. Once steaming is complete, the leaves are rapidly cooled to halt the cooking process before entering the drying stage. Warm air removes excess moisture while preserving the structural integrity of the leaves themselves. Throughout this process, workers remain focused on preventing unnecessary damage. Every effort is directed toward maintaining the beautiful green appearance and delicate chemistry that now define the harvested tea. Although these procedures may appear straightforward, they represent generations of careful refinement in which even small improvements have been preserved. As drying continues, the leaves gradually become lighter and more stable, making them suitable for the next transformation. Yet they still do not resemble the brilliant green powder recognized around the world as ceremonial matcha. Several important steps remain before that stage can be reached. The dried leaves must first be sorted, and every stem and central vein removed with precision. What remains after this delicate work is completed is a product known as tencha, a tea unlike almost any other, and the true foundation from which the world's finest ceremonial matcha is eventually created. The name tencha is unfamiliar to many people outside Japan, yet it represents one of the most important stages in producing ceremonial matcha. Unlike finished matcha, tencha is not a powder. It consists of whole tea leaves that have been steamed and dried, but not yet ground. At this point, the leaves remain surprisingly light and delicate, their surfaces retaining the beautiful emerald color created during the weeks beneath the shade. If held in the hand, they almost seem weightless, fragile enough to crumble beneath only slight pressure. Hidden inside these thin leaves is every flavor, aroma, and chemical compound that will eventually appear in the finished bowl of tea. Creating tencha requires another remarkable display of precision. After drying, the leaves pass through designed equipment that separates the soft leaf tissue from the tougher stems and central veins. These thicker portions contain different fibers and contribute characteristics that would reduce the smooth texture expected of ceremonial matcha. Removing them is not simply a matter of appearance. It directly influences the quality of the final powder, allowing only the most delicate portions of the leaf to continue forward. What remains is exceptionally pure, consisting almost entirely of the soft tissues where much of the developed chemistry has been preserved. Watching this process unfold is surprisingly calming. The dried leaves move slowly through a series of gentle sorting stages, floating almost effortlessly as streams of controlled air separate lighter pieces from heavier material. There is very little noise beyond the soft hum of the machinery and the quiet rustle of leaves moving from one stage to the next. Workers continue observing every step, occasionally inspecting samples by hand to ensure the process remains perfectly balanced. Although modern technology assists with much of the separation, the standards guiding every decision still reflect centuries of craftsmanship rather than simple mechanical efficiency. At this stage, many people might reasonably expect the leaves to be ground immediately into matcha. After all, the most difficult work appears complete. The tea has been cultivated, shaded, harvested, steamed, dried, and transformed into beautiful tencha. Yet some of Japan's finest producers choose not to rush ahead. Instead, they introduce another period of remarkable patience, allowing the tea to rest under controlled conditions before grinding ever begins. This resting period surprises many people because fresh food is so often associated with superior quality. Fruits, vegetables, herbs, and countless other ingredients are generally enjoyed as soon as possible after harvest. Ceremonial matcha follows a more subtle path. Properly stored tencha continues changing in gentle ways that are almost impossible to observe with the naked eye. The leaves themselves appear much the same from one week to the next, yet inside them, slow chemical processes continue reshaping the balance of flavors that will eventually fill the finished bowl. Temperature becomes especially important during this period. The storage rooms remain cooled to slow unwanted deterioration while allowing desirable changes to occur gradually. Humidity is monitored with equal care because excess moisture could damage the leaves or encourage mold, while air that is too dry might affect their delicate texture. Every aspect of the environment is maintained with remarkable consistency, creating conditions where the tea can mature peacefully without losing the qualities developed during cultivation and harvest. Scientists studying tea chemistry have learned that numerous compounds continue interacting long after the leaves have been picked. Tiny molecular changes unfold at an almost imperceptible pace. Certain sharper characteristics gradually soften while flavors become more rounded and harmonious. Aromatic compounds settle into a gentler balance, reducing harshness without diminishing the remarkable freshness that defines exceptional ceremonial matcha. These changes are subtle rather than dramatic, yet experienced tea producers and skilled tea masters often recognize them immediately when comparing matured tencha with leaves ground immediately after processing. The process bears some resemblance to the careful aging practiced with other foods valued for their complexity. Fine cheeses slowly develop richer flavors as proteins and fats change over time. Aged balsamic vinegar gradually becomes smoother through years of patient evaporation and concentration. Certain chocolates mellow as their ingredients continue interacting after production. In every case, time itself becomes part of the recipe. Tencha follows this same quiet philosophy, allowing patience to become another ingredient in the pursuit of excellence. Not every producer chooses to age tencha for the same length of time. Some prefer relatively short resting periods that preserve brighter, fresher characteristics, while others allow the leaves to mature longer in pursuit of greater depth and complexity. These decisions reflect both tradition and personal philosophy, much like the choices made by master craftsmen in many other fields. There is no single universally accepted formula. Instead, each producer seeks a balance that expresses the unique character of the harvest, the growing region, and the style of matcha they hope to create. Eventually, the moment arrives when the matured tencha is considered ready for its final transformation. After months of careful cultivation, weeks beneath the shade, meticulous harvesting, gentle steaming, precise drying, delicate sorting, and patient aging, the leaves are finally prepared to enter one of the most iconic stages in the entire story. Waiting nearby are granite stone mills whose design has changed little over the centuries. Their quiet rotation appears almost impossibly slow, yet within those steadily turning stones, the delicate leaves will soon become one of the finest powders ever produced from a living plant. For hundreds of years, the granite stone mill has remained one of the defining symbols of ceremonial matcha production. In an age when powerful machines can process enormous quantities of grain, coffee, and spices within minutes, these quiet mills continue turning with patience. Their design appears simple. Two carved granite stones rest one above the other. The lower stone remains fixed, while the upper stone rotates slowly, driven by a gentle mechanical system that has changed surprisingly little over the centuries. Between them lies only the smallest gap, precisely adjusted to grind the delicate tencha into an incredibly fine powder without damaging the fragile chemistry hidden inside every leaf. At first glance, It seems impossible that such a modest device could outperform modern industrial equipment. High-speed grinders are capable of reducing plant material into powder in a fraction of the time. Yet speed is exactly what ceremonial matcha producers seek to avoid. Grinding creates friction, and friction creates heat. Even small increases in temperature can begin affecting the volatile aromatic compounds that give exceptional matcha its fresh, grassy fragrance. Excess heat may also dull the brilliant emerald color that growers worked so to preserve from the moment the tea bushes disappeared beneath their shade coverings. The slow-turning granite stones solve this problem by allowing the leaves to be ground with remarkable gentleness. Watching one of these mills in operation is almost hypnotic. The upper stone rotates so gradually that its movement is barely noticeable from one moment to the next. A small amount of prepared tincture enters through an opening at the center before slowly working its way outward between finely carved grooves cut into the granite. With each quiet rotation, the leaves are broken into progressively smaller particles until an impossibly soft powder begins collecting beneath the mill. There is no sudden roar of machinery, no clouds of dust filling the air, and no frantic pace. Everything happens with deliberate calm, reflecting the same philosophy that guided every earlier stage of production. The productivity of these traditional mills often surprises first-time visitors. One adjusted granite mill may require an entire hour to produce only 30 to 40 grams of ceremonial matcha, roughly enough to fill a single small tin sold in specialty tea shops. A modern grinder could easily produce many times that amount in only a few minutes. Yet experienced producers willingly accept this slower pace because they know that protecting quality is far more valuable than increasing speed. Every additional minute spent grinding preserves characteristics that can never be restored once they have been lost. The fineness of ceremonial matcha is one of its defining qualities. Individual particles are often so small that they measure only a few microns across, finer than many common flowers and almost silky to the touch. If rubbed between the fingertips, high-quality matcha feels smooth, leaving no noticeable graininess behind. This exceptionally fine texture allows the powder to suspend evenly in water when whisked, creating the creamy consistency and delicate foam expected from a properly prepared bowl. Larger particles would settle quickly, producing a rougher texture and a less satisfying drinking experience. Achieving this consistency depends not only upon the speed of the mill, but also upon the remarkable craftsmanship involved in constructing it. Granite is chosen because of its durability and its ability to maintain precisely carved surfaces over many years of use. Skilled artisans shape each stone with accuracy, cutting designed grooves that guide the tea leaves outward as they are gradually reduced to powder. Even slight differences in the spacing between the stones can influence the final particle size, making careful adjustment essential throughout the grinding process. Maintaining these mills therefore requires both mechanical knowledge and years of practical experience. As the fresh powder slowly gathers beneath the mill, its appearance is striking. Rather than the dull green often associated with ordinary powdered teas, ceremonial matcha displays a vivid, luminous emerald color that almost seems to glow under natural light. This remarkable appearance reflects every careful decision made during cultivation and processing. The weeks spent beneath the shade encourage greater chlorophyll production. Immediate steaming preserved that chlorophyll after harvest. Gentle drying protected the leaves from unnecessary damage. Slow grinding prevented heat from degrading their delicate pigments. The brilliant color is therefore not the result of any single step, but the visible record of an entire journey carried out with precision. Freshly ground matcha also releases a distinctive aroma unlike that of almost any other tea. Notes of fresh grass, young vegetables, spring leaves, and subtle sweetness rise from the powder. There is a remarkable freshness that suggests the living plant itself, balanced by a soft richness created through careful cultivation and patient processing. Experienced tea masters often evaluate the aroma before preparing the tea, recognizing that it offers valuable clues about the quality of the harvest and the care taken throughout production. Once grinding is complete, the matcha remains surprisingly delicate. Exposure to light, moisture, oxygen, and heat gradually begins affecting both flavor and color, making careful storage essential. Producers therefore package ceremonial matcha in airtight containers designed to protect it from unnecessary exposure until the moment it is prepared. Even after centuries of refinement, the tea continues responding to its environment, just as it did while growing beneath the mountain skies. Protecting that remarkable chemistry remains the final responsibility of the producer before the tea begins the last stage of its journey, the quiet ritual of preparation that has been practiced in Japan for generations. Although ceremonial matcha may appear simple when served in a quiet bowl, the preparation itself reflects centuries of refinement. Every utensil has been designed to perform a specific purpose, and every movement has gradually evolved through generations of practice. Nothing is hurried, nothing is unnecessary. The process encourages complete attention, allowing both the person preparing the tea and the person receiving it to appreciate the remarkable journey that has already taken place before the first sip is ever tasted. The first step often begins with sifting the matcha through a fine mesh screen into a small bowl. Freshly ground powder naturally forms tiny clumps while resting inside its container. These clumps are not signs of poor quality. In fact, they often result from the fineness of the powder itself. Passing the matcha through the sieve separates those delicate particles, creating an exceptionally smooth texture that will whisk more evenly into the water. The bright green powder settles softly into the bowl like freshly fallen snow, forming a perfectly even layer ready for the next stage. Next comes the bamboo scoop, known in Japanese as a chashaku. Carved from a single piece of shaped bamboo, this graceful utensil has remained unchanged for generations. Its curved tip allows the tea master to lift small portions of matcha with remarkable consistency. Unlike metal measuring spoons, the bamboo scoop feels warm and natural in the hand, complementing the quiet simplicity that defines the ceremony itself. Each measured scoop represents not only a practical amount of tea, but also another connection to traditions that have been preserved for centuries. Equally important is the water. Many people assume that hotter water always produces better tea, yet ceremonial matcha follows a different rule. Water that is too hot can overwhelm the delicate compounds responsible for its sweetness, fresh aroma, and balanced flavor. Instead, the water is generally allowed to cool slightly after boiling before it is poured into the bowl. This modest reduction in temperature protects the remarkable chemistry developed throughout cultivation and processing, allowing the subtle flavors to remain beautifully balanced rather than becoming harsh or bitter. No utensil is more closely associated with matcha than the bamboo whisk, known as a chasen. Each whisk is traditionally carved from a single piece of bamboo before being split into dozens, sometimes well over 100, delicate tines. Producing one requires remarkable craftsmanship because every tine must remain flexible enough to move easily through the liquid while strong enough to withstand repeated use. At first glance, the whisk appears almost too delicate for practical use, yet its elegant design has been perfected through generations of careful refinement. As the whisk begins moving rapidly through the bowl, the transformation happens almost instantly. The fine powder disperses evenly into the warm water, while thousands of tiny air bubbles become suspended throughout the liquid. Within moments, a smooth layer of vibrant green foam begins forming across the surface. This fine froth is considered one of the hallmarks of properly prepared ceremonial matcha. It softens the texture, enhances the aroma rising from the bowl, and reflects the remarkable fineness of the powder produced by the slowly turning granite mills. Watching an experienced tea master prepare matcha can be almost mesmerizing. The movements appear effortless, yet every motion has a purpose refined through years of practice. The bowl is held securely but gently. The whisk moves with controlled speed, creating a rhythmic pattern that blends the tea without unnecessary splashing. There is no wasted movement, no hurried gestures, and no distraction from the quiet task at hand. The entire process often lasts only a short time, yet it reflects centuries of accumulated knowledge hidden within what appears to be simplicity. Once prepared, the bowl itself invites quiet observation before the first sip. Its brilliant emerald surface catches the light in a way that immediately reflects the remarkable journey of the tea. The vivid color speaks of shaded gardens where chlorophyll accumulated beneath woven screens. The smooth texture recalls the patient work of the granite stone mill. The fresh aroma carries hints of spring leaves, young grass, and the gentle sweetness preserved through careful cultivation. Before tasting begins, the senses have already begun appreciating the craftsmanship contained within the bowl. The first sip often surprises those experiencing high-quality ceremonial matcha for the first time. Rather than the sharp bitterness many people associate with ordinary green tea, exceptional ceremonial matcha reveals a remarkable balance. Gentle sweetness arrives first, followed by a rich, savory depth created by its abundant amino acids. Delicate vegetal notes mingle with fresh aromas, while only a slight, pleasant bitterness appears near the finish, providing structure without overpowering the tea. The flavor lingers quietly, changing subtly from one moment to the next, as countless compounds interact across the palate. This harmony between sweetness, umami, freshness, and gentle bitterness is not the result of chance. It is the final expression of every decision made throughout the tea's journey. The mountain climate shaped the growing conditions. Careful shading altered the plant's chemistry. Skilled harvesting preserved the youngest leaves. Immediate steaming protected their vibrant color. Patient aging softened their character. Slow granite grinding maintained their delicate aromas. Finally, thoughtful preparation brought all of those elements together inside a single bowl. The quiet ritual surrounding ceremonial matcha gradually evolved into something far greater than the simple preparation of a drink. While tea itself remained at the center, every surrounding detail was given equal importance. The path leading to the tea house, the garden through which guests slowly walked, the arrangement of seasonal flowers, the texture of the tea bowl, the sound of water heating over charcoal, and even the changing light outside the windows, all became part of a balanced experience designed to encourage calm awareness. Unlike grand banquets intended to display wealth or status, the tea ceremonies celebrated simplicity. The tea houses themselves were often surprisingly modest in size, built with natural materials that blended into the surrounding landscape. Wooden beams, woven bamboo, clay walls, paper screens, and tatami mats created an atmosphere free from unnecessary decoration. Looking around such a room, the eye found very little demanding attention. Instead, every object invited quiet observation. The grain of the wood, the gentle curve of a ceramic bowl, or the shadow cast by afternoon sunlight across the floor, all became part of the experience. Guests entering the tea house followed traditions developed over centuries. Shoes were removed before stepping onto the tatami mats, leaving behind the dust and distractions of the outside world. Conversation naturally became softer as everyone settled into the peaceful surroundings. There was no expectation of hurried discussion or constant entertainment. Instead, silence itself became comfortable, allowing each person to appreciate details that might otherwise pass unnoticed during ordinary daily life. Many traditional tea houses include a small alcove known as a tokonoma, where a simple flower arrangement or selected piece of calligraphy is displayed. These decorations are never chosen at random. They often reflect the current season, a particular natural event, or a thoughtful idea appropriate for the gathering. In spring, delicate blossoms might celebrate the return of warmer weather. During autumn, a single branch bearing colorful leaves may acknowledge the changing season. The goal is not abundance but meaning. The tea bowls themselves also reveal remarkable craftsmanship. No two handcrafted bowls are perfectly identical. Slight variations in shape, texture, glaze, and color are not considered flaws, but expressions of the individual artisan who created them. Some bowls display subtle earthy tones resembling weathered stone, while others feature deep blacks, warm browns, or soft cream-colored glazes. Tiny irregularities produced during firing are often appreciated because they remind the viewer that every bowl has its own unique history. Rather than seeking perfect uniformity, traditional Japanese aesthetics often celebrate the quiet beauty found within natural variation. Seasonal changes influence nearly every aspect of the ceremony. During colder months, deeper bowls help retain warmth, while creating a sense of comfort against the winter air. In summer, shallower bowls allow the vibrant green surface of the tea to cool more quickly, while presenting a lighter appearance suited to the warmer season. The flowers, hanging scrolls, utensils, and even the sweets served before the tea may all change throughout the year. In this way, every gathering acknowledges the passing of time and the continual rhythm of nature. The principles guiding the tea ceremony were beautifully expressed by the influential tea master Sen no Rikyu during the 16th century. 4 ideals gradually became the foundation of the practice: harmony, respect, purity, and tranquility. Harmony encourages balance between people and their surroundings. Respect reminds host and guest alike to value one another with sincerity and humility. Purity extends beyond physical cleanliness to include clarity of intention and careful attention to every action. Tranquility emerges naturally when the first 3 principles are practiced with patience and care. These simple ideas continue influencing tea ceremonies more than 4 centuries later. Although the ceremony may appear highly structured, its true purpose has never been rigid perfection. Instead, the refined movements create space for genuine presence. Every action is performed thoughtfully enough that nothing feels rushed, yet naturally enough that attention remains focused on the shared experience rather than the performance itself. Preparing tea becomes an opportunity to set aside distractions and appreciate simple acts carried out with care. Heating water, whisking matcha, offering the bowl, and receiving it all become quiet expressions of hospitality. One of the most beautiful ideas associated with the tea ceremony is the Japanese phrase ichi go ichi e, often translated as one time, one meeting. The expression reminds everyone present that each gathering is unique and will never occur in exactly the same way again. The season will change, the weather will be different, the flowers will bloom and fade, and the people sharing the tea will never again experience precisely that same moment together. Even if the same guests meet again, time itself will have moved forward. This awareness encourages gratitude for the present, rather than longing for the past or worrying about the future. The vibrant green powder still begins its journey beneath shaded tea bushes. The leaves are still harvested with care, steamed, transformed into tencha, patiently ground between slowly turning granite stones, and finally whisked into warm water with graceful bamboo tools whose designs have changed very little over the centuries. Modern science has given us a deeper understanding of the remarkable chemistry hidden inside each leaf. Yet the quiet philosophy surrounding ceremonial matcha continues reminding us that some of life's greatest pleasures are found not in speed or complexity, but in patience, craftsmanship, and giving our complete attention to the present moment. As ceremonial matcha gradually spread beyond Japan, it carried far more than its remarkable flavor with it. Travelers, merchants, scholars, and tea enthusiasts introduced the vivid green powder to new cultures, where people immediately recognized that it differed from any tea they had experienced before. Its brilliant color attracted attention first, but its unusual method of preparation and rich, savory flavor soon inspired curiosity among those eager to understand how such a drink could be created from nothing more than cultivated leaves. For many years, however, true ceremonial matcha remained relatively rare outside Japan. Producing it required specialized knowledge that could not easily be copied. The unique growing methods, selected cultivars, precise shading techniques, traditional processing, and slow stone grinding all depended upon generations of accumulated experience. Simply planting tea bushes elsewhere did not automatically produce ceremonial matcha. Every stage relied upon countless small decisions that had been refined over hundreds of years, many of which were learned only through careful observation rather than written instruction. During the 20th century, improvements in transportation gradually made it possible for high-quality Japanese matcha to reach distant countries while preserving its freshness. Sealed containers protected the delicate powder from light, moisture, and excess air during shipment. Refrigerated storage further extended its quality, allowing tea grown in the quiet mountain valleys of Japan to be enjoyed thousands of miles away, while still retaining much of its remarkable color, aroma, and flavor. As awareness of matcha continued growing, researchers also became increasingly interested in the remarkable chemistry hidden within its tiny green particles. Unlike earlier generations, scientists now possess sophisticated instruments capable of examining individual compounds in detail. Chromatographs separated complex mixtures into their individual components, while advanced microscopes revealed the fine particle size created by traditional granite mills. Chemical analysis confirmed what tea growers had observed for centuries. Careful shading significantly increased chlorophyll concentrations while helping preserve greater amounts of L-theanine within the leaves. Laboratory measurements supported the wisdom that generations of farmers had developed simply by observing their fields. Researchers also studied the remarkable collection of naturally occurring compounds found within ceremonial matcha. Alongside chlorophyll and L-theanine, they identified abundant catechins, naturally occurring polyphenols produced by the tea plant throughout its life. These compounds contribute to the tea's gentle bitterness, while also serving important roles within the plant itself, helping protect its tissues from environmental stresses. Modern nutritional science continues investigating these and many other naturally occurring molecules, expanding our understanding of the remarkable chemistry that exists inside every grown leaf. One of the reasons ceremonial matcha attracts scientific interest is that, unlike most teas, the entire leaf becomes part of the drink. When preparing black tea, green tea, or oolong tea, hot water extracts only a portion of the leaf's soluble compounds before the leaves themselves are discarded. Matcha follows a completely different approach. The finely ground powder remains suspended within the water, meaning the leaf itself is consumed. Every microscopic particle carries with it the chlorophyll, amino acids, catechins, minerals, vitamins, and countless other naturally occurring compounds that developed throughout the growing season. This simple difference gives ceremonial matcha a nutritional profile unlike almost any other traditional tea. Despite these modern scientific discoveries, many experienced tea growers remind visitors that no laboratory can fully replace careful observation in the field. Instruments may measure chlorophyll levels with astonishing accuracy, yet they cannot replace the practiced eye of a farmer who has watched the same tea bushes through changing seasons for decades. Chemical analysis can identify thousands of compounds inside a leaf, but it cannot decide the perfect morning to begin the harvest. Today's growers often combine advanced weather forecasting with observations passed down through their families. Soil analysis helps guide careful fertilization, while centuries of practical knowledge still determine the timing of shading, harvesting, and processing. The discoveries made inside research laboratories frequently confirm what skilled tea farmers understood through experience long before scientific instruments existed. Across Japan's celebrated tea regions, this balance between old and new continues shaping each harvest. Maintained gardens still follow the contours of mountain hillsides, much as they have for centuries. Shade structures continue appearing every spring. Skilled workers still inspect the youngest leaves with practiced eyes before harvest begins. Granite stone mills continue turning at their unhurried pace, producing only small quantities of powder each hour. At the same time, careful environmental monitoring, improved cultivation techniques, and ongoing botanical research help ensure that future generations will continue enjoying ceremonial matcha of exceptional quality. This is one of the most remarkable aspects of the entire story. In a world where technology constantly encourages greater speed, larger harvests, and increased efficiency, ceremonial matcha has preserved a different philosophy. Progress has certainly influenced many parts of its production, yet the qualities that define the finest matcha remain almost exactly the same as they were generations ago. Patience still matters. Careful observation still matters. Gentle handling still matters. The living chemistry of the tea plant still follows the rhythms of nature rather than the pace demanded by modern industry. Although ceremonial matcha has become admired throughout the world, its production still begins with the same natural forces that shaped the earliest tea gardens centuries ago. Every growing season starts with weather that no farmer can completely predict or control. A cooler spring may slow the emergence of new shoots, allowing delicate compounds to accumulate more gradually inside the leaves. An unusually warm season may encourage rapid growth, requiring growers to adjust the timing of shading and harvest. Gentle rainfall nourishes the roots, while prolonged storms can delay important work in the fields. Every year presents its own unique combination of challenges, reminding even the most experienced tea growers that nature always remains an active partner in the process. Among the many factors influencing the harvest, soil often receives less attention than it deserves. Standing in a tea garden, it is easy to admire the endless rows of pruned bushes while overlooking the complex world hidden beneath the surface. Yet healthy soil supports billions of microscopic organisms working continuously around the roots. Bacteria, fungi, tiny insects, and earthworms all contribute to breaking down organic matter into nutrients that the tea plants can absorb. This living ecosystem recycles fallen leaves, improves soil structure, and helps regulate the movement of water through the ground. The remarkable chemistry eventually found inside ceremonial matcha begins with this invisible partnership taking place below every tea bush. Tea growers devote considerable attention to maintaining that underground environment. Organic matter is returned to the soil, helping preserve its structure while slowly releasing valuable nutrients. Drainage is monitored closely because tea plants thrive in moist conditions, but dislike standing water around their roots. The balance must remain just right. Too little moisture stresses the plants, while too much may reduce root health and interfere with normal growth. Through generations of careful observation, growers have learned that exceptional tea begins with healthy soil long before the first leaves appear each spring. Weather patterns throughout the growing season also influence the remarkable chemistry developing inside the leaves. Cool nights often encourage slower, steadier growth, allowing amino acids and aromatic compounds to accumulate gradually. Warm daytime temperatures provide the energy required for photosynthesis, while morning mist softens the intensity of direct sunlight before the shade structures are even installed. Gentle breezes help circulate fresh air through the gardens, reducing excess moisture that could encourage disease. Every element of the surrounding environment contributes in subtle ways, creating harvests that are never completely identical from one year to the next. This natural variation is not viewed as a flaw. In fact, many tea producers celebrate it. Just as vineyards speak of differences between one vintage and another, tea growers recognize that every harvest reflects the particular conditions of its growing season. A spring marked by abundant rainfall may produce leaves with slightly different characteristics than one shaped by cooler temperatures or longer periods of sunshine. Skilled producers learn to adapt their methods each year, making thoughtful adjustments while preserving the overall style that defines their tea. Flexibility, rather than rigid repetition, has always been one of the quiet strengths of exceptional craftsmanship. Modern technology has provided valuable tools for supporting these decisions without replacing the experience of the grower. Weather stations installed near tea gardens continuously record temperature, humidity, rainfall, and wind conditions. Soil sensors monitor moisture at different depths, helping farmers understand when irrigation may be necessary during unusually dry periods. Laboratory analysis can measure nutrient levels with precision, allowing fertilizers to be applied only where they are truly needed. Yet despite these impressive advances, many of the most important decisions still depend upon walking through the fields, observing the plants directly, and recognizing subtle details that no instrument can fully interpret. This partnership between experience and technology extends beyond the gardens themselves. Researchers continue studying tea cultivars developed over many decades, searching for combinations of flavor, resilience, and productivity that will help future generations of growers. Some cultivars are prized for producing exceptionally sweet ceremonial matcha, while others display remarkable tolerance to changing weather conditions or resistance to certain plant diseases. Managed breeding programs preserve this genetic diversity, ensuring that the remarkable history of Japanese tea continues evolving while remaining firmly rooted in its traditional foundations. Climate change has also become an important area of study for tea-producing regions around the world. Even small shifts in average temperature, seasonal rainfall, or the timing of spring growth can influence harvest schedules and the chemistry developing within the leaves. Researchers and growers work together to better understand these changes, exploring cultivation techniques that help protect both quality and long-term sustainability. Their efforts reflect a tradition that has always depended upon adapting thoughtfully to nature rather than attempting to dominate it. Walking through a modern tea garden today, one might notice both continuity and quiet innovation existing side by side. Traditional shade structures still stretch across the rows before harvest. Skilled workers continue inspecting the youngest leaves with practiced eyes. Nearby, weather instruments record changing environmental conditions, while researchers analyze soil samples collected from the surrounding fields. Neither approach diminishes the other. Instead, they complement one another, combining centuries of practical wisdom with the precision offered by contemporary science. This balance explains why ceremonial matcha continues earning such admiration throughout the world. It is neither a relic preserved unchanged from the past, nor a product transformed entirely by modern technology. It represents something much more enduring. Ancient knowledge continues guiding the process, while new discoveries deepen our understanding of the remarkable plant at its center. The story of ceremonial matcha, therefore, remains unfinished, growing with every passing season, as each new harvest adds another chapter to a tradition that has already endured for centuries. One of the reasons ceremonial matcha continues inspiring such respect is that its production has never become entirely separated from the people who grow it. Even with modern equipment assisting certain stages of cultivation and processing, the finest matcha still depends upon countless human decisions that cannot simply be automated. Experienced growers continue walking through the gardens each morning, observing details that have become second nature after decades spent among the tea bushes. They notice subtle changes in the color of new shoots, the way moisture lingers on the leaves after sunrise, the effects of a particularly cool night, or the signs that a field has reached the perfect stage for harvest. These observations are difficult to record in numbers, yet they remain among the most valuable forms of knowledge within the tea-growing community. Children raised in tea-growing families frequently spend their earliest years accompanying parents and grandparents through the gardens, learning not through formal lessons, but through patient observation. They discover how to recognize healthy new growth, how weather influences the harvest, and why every field behaves a little differently, despite appearing almost identical to a visitor. Over time, they begin noticing patterns that once seemed invisible, A certain hillside may always mature slightly earlier than another. One section of the garden may respond differently after periods of heavy rain. These lessons accumulate gradually, becoming part of an understanding that no single book could fully capture. Many of Japan's oldest tea-producing families have cared for the same land over numerous generations. Their gardens have witnessed changing governments, new technologies, expanding cities, and dramatic shifts in the world beyond the surrounding mountains. Yet each spring the same careful rhythm returns. The bushes awaken from winter, tender new leaves begin appearing, shade structures rise above the fields, and another harvest begins. Looking across these gardens today, it is possible to imagine similar scenes unfolding centuries ago beneath the same changing skies. While the world beyond has transformed repeatedly, the essential partnership between grower and plant has remained constant. The equipment used throughout the process also reflects this blend of continuity and thoughtful refinement. Bamboo baskets, woven by skilled craftspeople, continue serving alongside modern containers designed to protect delicate leaves during transport. Traditional granite mills still produce some of the world's finest ceremonial matcha, while engineered environmental controls help maintain ideal conditions during storage. The goal has never been to reject innovation simply because it is new. Instead, every improvement is judged according to one question: does it preserve or improve the quality of the tea? If the answer is yes, it may become part of the tradition itself. Packaging ceremonial matcha has become another important stage in preserving its remarkable qualities. Once the powder leaves the granite mill, it remains extremely sensitive to its surroundings. Oxygen slowly alters delicate aromatic compounds. Prolonged exposure to light can dull its brilliant green color. Moisture encourages clumping while shortening shelf life, and excessive warmth gradually reduces freshness. To protect against these changes, producers seal ceremonial matcha inside airtight containers, often filling them with an inert gas before closing them to minimize contact with oxygen. Every precaution helps ensure that the tea reaching someone's home reflects the same remarkable craftsmanship present at the moment it left the mill. Even after opening, careful storage remains important. Tea enthusiasts often keep ceremonial matcha in cool, dark places where temperature remains relatively stable. Each time the container is opened, only a small amount is removed before the remaining powder is sealed once again. These simple habits protect the delicate compounds that contribute so much to the tea's character. Although ceremonial matcha appears surprisingly durable as a dry powder, it continues responding to its environment just as it did while growing beneath the shaded gardens. Around the world, appreciation for ceremonial matcha has encouraged people to look more closely at the origins of the foods and beverages they enjoy every day. Many begin asking where their tea was grown, how it was cultivated, who harvested the leaves, and what traditions shaped its production. Ceremonial matcha serves as a reminder that quality rarely appears by accident. That is one of the quiet lessons hidden within the story of ceremonial matcha. Modern life often encourages us to focus only on finished products while overlooking the remarkable journeys that created them. A bowl of vibrant green tea may appear wonderfully simple, yet inside it rests an entire chain of events stretching back through mountain landscapes, changing weather, careful cultivation, invisible chemistry, skilled hands, and traditions preserved across countless generations. Every sip connects the present moment with work that began many months earlier, and knowledge that has continued evolving for hundreds of years. Standing at the edge of a peaceful tea garden, it becomes easier to appreciate why these traditions have endured for so long. Morning mist still drifts across the hillsides. The rows of pruned bushes continue following the contours of the mountains. Beneath their shaded coverings, young leaves reshape their chemistry exactly as they have done for generations. Somewhere nearby, a granite mill turns almost imperceptibly, patiently transforming delicate tincture into the brilliant emerald powder that has become one of the world's most celebrated teas. The pace remains unhurried because the people caring for these gardens understand something that centuries of experience have taught them well. Nature already knows how to create something extraordinary. Their greatest achievement has been learning when to guide it and when to simply allow it the time it needs. Although ceremonial matcha is deeply rooted in Japanese tradition, the tea plant itself reminds us that some of nature's greatest achievements are shared across the entire living world. Every tea bush, whether growing on a mist-covered hillside in Uji or another tended garden elsewhere in Japan, depends upon the same biological principles that sustain forests, grasslands, and countless other plants across the planet. Sunlight is transformed into stored energy through photosynthesis. Water rises silently from the roots through delicate vascular tissues. Carbon dioxide drifts in through microscopic openings on each leaf, while oxygen returns to the atmosphere. These invisible exchanges occur continuously, forming one of the most important natural cycles on Earth. It is remarkable to consider that the vibrant green color admired in ceremonial matcha exists because of one molecule that has shaped the history of life for hundreds of millions of years. Chlorophyll does far more than color the leaves. It captures energy arriving from the sun, allowing plants to create the carbohydrates that fuel their own growth, while supporting nearly every ecosystem on Earth. The forests that cover mountains, the grasses that feed grazing animals, the crops harvested from fertile fields, and even the oxygen filling each breath we take all depend upon this elegant chemistry unfolding inside green leaves every day. The tea plant has simply become one of the most refined examples of how humans have learned to guide that natural chemistry without replacing it. Growers never manufacture chlorophyll inside a laboratory. They never create L-theanine using machines before adding it to the leaves. Instead, they encourage the living plant to produce these remarkable compounds for itself. Shade influences photosynthesis. Healthy soil supports steady growth. Proper harvest timing preserves delicate chemistry. Every stage depends upon allowing the plant to perform the biological work it has evolved to do naturally. This quiet partnership between human observation and natural science has become increasingly valuable in today's world. Researchers studying sustainable agriculture often point toward crops like tea as examples of how careful management can produce exceptional quality while respecting the biological limits of the plant itself. Rather than forcing maximum production regardless of long-term consequences, many ceremonial matcha growers continue emphasizing healthy soils, managed harvests, and thoughtful stewardship of the land. Many tea gardens have now remained productive for decades because they are managed with this long view in mind. Bushes are pruned rather than aggressively. Soil fertility is maintained year after year instead of being exhausted through excessive production. Water resources are protected, and surrounding forests continue providing many of the environmental conditions that make these remarkable growing regions possible. Birds, insects, microorganisms, and countless other forms of life share these landscapes, creating healthy ecosystems that extend well beyond the tea bushes themselves. Visitors often describe an unexpected feeling when walking through these gardens. Beyond the obvious beauty of the landscape, there is a sense that every part of the environment is connected. The mountain forests help regulate moisture and temperature. Streams carry fresh water through the valleys below. Morning mist softens the first sunlight reaching the leaves. Healthy soils nourish deep root systems hidden beneath the surface. Farmers respond thoughtfully to changing conditions rather than attempting to overpower them. Each part depends upon every other, creating a balance that has supported tea cultivation for centuries. This is one reason ceremonial matcha has remained so admired despite the countless changes taking place throughout the modern world. It reminds us that true refinement is often achieved through understanding rather than control. The finest growers never ask the tea plant to become something different from what nature intended. Instead, they learn its rhythms, observe its responses, and create conditions that allow its greatest qualities to emerge. Their work resembles a quiet conversation carried out across generations, where every season teaches another lesson, and every successful harvest reflects a deeper understanding of the living world. Science continues adding new chapters to that conversation. Modern researchers now investigate the genes responsible for chlorophyll production, the molecular pathways controlling amino acid formation, and the remarkable interactions between soil microorganisms and plant roots. Satellite imagery helps monitor changing weather patterns, while advanced laboratory instruments reveal details that earlier generations could scarcely have imagined. Yet, with every new discovery, the remarkable conclusion remains much the same. The observations made by tea growers centuries ago were astonishingly accurate. They understood through patience alone how light, timing, temperature, and careful handling could transform an ordinary leaf into something extraordinary. Looking back across the entire journey of ceremonial matcha, every stage depends upon countless smaller processes working together. The mountain climate shapes the growing season. Healthy roots gather minerals from living soil. Chlorophyll captures sunlight, while amino acids slowly accumulate beneath placed shade. Tender leaves are harvested at precisely the right moment before being steamed, transformed into tincture, patiently matured, and finally reduced to an impossibly fine powder between slowly turning granite stones. Every remarkable quality found within the finished tea can be traced back to a series of thoughtful decisions made long before the powder ever reached a bowl. There are no shortcuts hidden within the process. No single machine suddenly creates exceptional flavor. No secret ingredient is added at the final stage. Instead, excellence emerges gradually as every small step preserves and builds upon the one before it. The living plant performs its remarkable chemistry. The grower protects that chemistry. The craftsman preserves it. Finally, the tea master reveals it. That is why ceremonial matcha has earned such admiration among people who dedicate their lives to food and agriculture. It demonstrates that quality often comes from understanding natural processes rather than attempting to replace them. A farmer cannot force chlorophyll to develop more quickly than the plant allows. L-theanine accumulates according to the quiet rhythms of living cells. The delicate aromas remain protected only if excessive heat is avoided during grinding. Every stage depends upon respecting biological limits instead of trying to overcome them. Patience becomes more than a virtue. It becomes one of the essential ingredients. This philosophy extends beyond the tea gardens themselves. Throughout Japan, Many traditional crafts share the same careful relationship with time. Woodworkers season timber for years before shaping it into furniture or temples. Swordsmiths fold steel repeatedly to refine its internal structure. In each case, the craftsman works alongside natural materials whose behavior must be understood rather than commanded. Modern consumers often encounter only the final result displayed on a shelf or prepared inside a cafe. They see the brilliant green powder, the designed container, or the smooth bowl of tea waiting before them. Rarely do they imagine the remarkable sequence of events hidden behind that simple appearance. They do not see the tea bushes disappearing beneath shade weeks before harvest. They do not hear the quiet sound of leaves moving through the processing rooms, or the gentle turning of granite stones, producing only a handful of bowls each hour. Yet all of those unseen moments remain present inside every serving, preserved within the flavor, color, aroma, and texture of the tea itself. The remarkable journey from mountain garden to tea bowl also reminds us that some of humanity's greatest achievements have emerged through cooperation rather than competition. Generations of growers shared successful techniques with those who followed them. Families preserved careful observations accumulated over centuries. Craftsmen refined the design of bamboo whisks, stone mills, tea bowls, and storage methods until every unnecessary detail disappeared. Scientists later explained many of these practices, adding another layer of understanding without diminishing the wisdom already contained within the traditions themselves. Progress did not erase the past. Instead, it deepened appreciation for what earlier generations had patiently discovered through experience alone. Today, visitors traveling through Japan's famous tea regions often find that the landscape itself reflects this remarkable continuity. The gardens still follow the contours of the hills, just as they have for centuries. Narrow paths wind between tended fields. Streams continue carrying cool mountain water through the valleys, while cedar forests shelter the slopes from harsh winds. In spring, shade structures appear above the tea bushes, transforming familiar landscapes into great emerald canopies where invisible chemistry unfolds. The view has certainly changed in small ways as new technologies have been introduced, yet the essential rhythm remains comfortingly familiar. Standing in one of these gardens during the early morning hours offers a rare opportunity to appreciate how little noise accompanies craftsmanship. There are no dramatic machines dominating the landscape, and no frantic pace demanding immediate results. Instead, there is birdsong drifting from nearby trees, the gentle rustle of leaves moving in the breeze, the faint sound of footsteps along narrow paths, and occasionally the distant voices of growers beginning another day's work. Everything feels measured. Every task follows naturally from the one before it. The entire landscape seems to breathe according to the quiet pace established by the seasons themselves. Looking across those endless rows of tea bushes, it becomes surprisingly easy to understand why ceremonial matcha has become more than simply another beverage. It represents the meeting point of agriculture, botany, chemistry, craftsmanship, history, and human patience. Every discipline contributes something essential, yet none could create ceremonial matcha alone. Remove the remarkable biology of the tea plant, and the journey never begins. Remove the centuries of careful observation, and the finest growing methods disappear. Remove the patient craftsmanship of harvesting, processing, and grinding, and the qualities developed inside the leaves would never fully reach the bowl. Each part depends completely upon every other, forming a chain of knowledge stretching across generations. As the seasons continue changing and another spring eventually arrives, new shoots will emerge from the pruned tea bushes. Farmers will inspect the gardens beneath the first morning light. Shade structures will rise across the hillsides, chlorophyll will deepen inside every leaf, and the remarkable journey will begin all over again. Although each harvest will be unique, the timeless partnership between nature and human craftsmanship will remain unchanged, continuing one of the world's most agricultural traditions exactly as it has for centuries. Long after the final harvest has been completed and the last tea leaves have been stored, the gardens themselves never truly become dormant. Beneath the neatly pruned rows of evergreen bushes, the plants continue carrying out countless quiet processes that prepare them for another growing season. Their roots remain active within the soil whenever conditions allow, gathering moisture and nutrients while storing energy that will support the next flush of spring growth. Although the hillsides appear peaceful during the colder months, life continues beneath the surface with remarkable patience, waiting for the gradual return of warmer temperatures and longer days. This annual cycle has repeated itself across Japan's tea-growing regions for hundreds of years. Farmers who walk these same gardens today often follow paths once traveled by their parents, grandparents, and generations before them. The mountains remain familiar companions. The morning mist still drifts across the valleys. Watching this cycle unfold year after year gives growers a profound appreciation for the quiet consistency of nature. No matter how much the world changes beyond the mountains, the tea gardens continue following rhythms established long before modern history began. This continuity explains why so many people describe visiting Japan's famous tea regions as a deeply calming experience. There is a noticeable absence of urgency. The fields are not driven by deadlines measured in hours, but by seasons measured in weeks and months. Every stage unfolds only when the plants themselves are ready. Even the busiest moments of harvest are guided by careful observation rather than frantic speed. For scientists, ceremonial matcha represents an example of applied plant biology. Every stage demonstrates how subtle environmental changes influence the chemistry of living organisms. Adjusting light levels alters chlorophyll production. Timing the harvest affects amino acid concentrations. Gentle steaming preserves compounds that would otherwise disappear through oxidation. Slow grinding protects delicate aromatic molecules from heat. Each step reveals another layer of biological complexity hidden inside what appears to be nothing more than a simple green leaf. Few agricultural products illustrate the relationship between traditional knowledge and modern scientific understanding so clearly. For historians, matcha tells a very different story. It reflects the movement of ideas across cultures, the influence of Buddhist monks who carried tea seeds and knowledge between nations, the gradual refinement of Japanese agriculture, and the development of one of the world's most celebrated cultural traditions. Every bowl prepared today carries echoes of those earlier centuries, connecting modern life with countless individuals who patiently refined each stage of cultivation, processing, and preparation until the smallest details approached perfection. For craftsmen, ceremonial matcha demonstrates that mastery often lies in preserving rather than changing. The granite stone mill has endured because it continues performing its task exceptionally well. The bamboo whisk remains almost unchanged because its elegant design still creates the delicate foam expected of properly prepared matcha. The tea bowl continues reflecting the hands of the artisan rather than the precision of mass production. These objects remind us that innovation does not always require replacing the old. Sometimes it simply means understanding why certain traditions have survived for so long. The vivid green color reflects weeks spent beneath controlled shade. The smooth texture recalls the patient turning of granite stones. The gentle sweetness speaks of amino acids preserved within the leaves, while the rich umami reveals the remarkable chemistry shaped by mountain climates, fertile soils, and generations of thoughtful cultivation. Every sip contains far more than flavor alone. It carries the story of an entire landscape and the people who have devoted their lives to understanding it. Looking back across the complete journey, it is remarkable how often the greatest transformations occurred where they were least visible. The most important chemistry developed silently inside the living leaves. The greatest improvements came through countless small observations accumulated over generations rather than dramatic discoveries. Even the aging of tencha unfolded through changes too subtle for the eye to perceive from one day to the next. The story of ceremonial matcha is also a story about attention itself. The growers pay close attention to the changing seasons. The craftsmen pay close attention to every stage of processing. The tea master pays close attention while preparing each bowl. The guest is invited to pay close attention while appreciating its color, aroma, texture, and flavor. At every stage, the quality of the final experience depends not upon rushing forward, but upon noticing details that might otherwise be overlooked. This quiet discipline of careful observation has shaped the tradition just as surely as sunlight, soil, and rain. And that is the most enduring lesson hidden within every brilliant green bowl of ceremonial matcha. Long before it became admired around the world, before laboratories explained its chemistry, before merchants carried it across oceans, and before modern machines helped preserve its freshness, it was simply a living plant growing beneath the mountain skies. The remarkable story of ceremonial-grade matcha is not merely the story of a tea. The influence of ceremonial matcha continues extending far beyond the quiet tea rooms where it is traditionally prepared. Throughout Japan, it has inspired generations of artists, poets, ceramic makers, gardeners, architects, and craftsmen who all share a similar appreciation for balance, simplicity, and careful attention to detail. The tea ceremony itself became more than a cultural practice. It encouraged an entire way of thinking in which beauty was often found in natural materials, subtle imperfections, and moments of quiet reflection rather than elaborate displays of wealth. A simple wooden doorway, the texture of handmade paper, the weathered surface of an old tea bowl, or the sound of rain falling outside a small tea house, all became worthy of appreciation because they reflected the same gentle harmony found within the tea itself. This philosophy also shaped the gardens surrounding many traditional tea houses. Unlike formal gardens designed to impress with symmetry or grand displays of flowers, tea gardens often guide visitors along winding stone paths through arranged natural landscapes. Moss grows softly beneath ancient trees. Small lanterns stand beside weathered stepping stones. Bamboo fences blend into the surrounding vegetation rather than dominating it. Every turn along the path separates the visitor from the busy world beyond, preparing the mind for the peaceful experience waiting inside the tea house. Even before a single bowl of matcha is prepared, the journey has already begun. The changing seasons remain central to this experience. In spring, fresh green leaves and flowering branches celebrate renewal after winter. Summer brings deep shades of green and the gentle sound of insects hidden among the trees. Autumn transforms the surrounding forests into brilliant displays of red, orange, and gold, while winter strips the branches bare, revealing quiet beauty in simplicity itself. Tea gardens are never intended to look exactly the same throughout the year. Instead, they remind visitors that change is one of nature's greatest constants, and that every season offers its own quiet form of beauty. The tea ceremony embraces this changing world rather than attempting to resist it. A bowl chosen for a gathering in early spring may be replaced by another better suited to autumn. A hanging scroll displayed one month gives way to different calligraphy as the seasons progress. Even the sweets served before the tea often reflect flowers blooming outside or fruits ripening in nearby orchards. Every gathering becomes unique because the natural world surrounding it is constantly changing. Nothing remains exactly the same, and that impermanence is celebrated rather than regretted. In many respects, ceremonial matcha teaches us to observe processes that modern life often encourages us to overlook. We rarely witness crops growing from season to season. We seldom see the careful work required to cultivate exceptional ingredients before they appear on store shelves or restaurant tables. This quiet respect for process has helped ceremonial matcha remain relevant even in an age of remarkable technological progress. While computers have become more powerful, machines more efficient, and transportation faster than ever before, the essential qualities that define exceptional matcha remain almost unchanged. Healthy soil still nourishes the roots. Morning mist still drifts across mountain valleys. Shade still encourages remarkable changes inside the leaves. Granite stones still protect delicate aromas through slow, careful grinding. Nature continues setting the pace while human craftsmanship follows. This explains why so many people describe preparing ceremonial matcha as a calming experience. The simple act of measuring the powder, warming the bowl, adding heated water, and whisking until a delicate foam appears naturally slows the pace of the moment. There is little opportunity for distraction because each step deserves gentle attention. The vibrant green color encourages the eyes to pause. The fresh aroma invites a slow breath. Even before the first sip is taken, the preparation itself has already become part of the experience, offering a brief reminder that not every worthwhile activity needs to be completed as quickly as possible. As research continues expanding our understanding of plant biology, food chemistry, and sustainable agriculture, ceremonial matcha remains an example of how traditional knowledge and scientific discovery can strengthen one another. Modern laboratories explain why shading increases chlorophyll, why amino acids contribute sweetness and umami, and why careful temperature control preserves delicate compounds. Yet these discoveries do not replace the wisdom of generations who patiently observed the tea plants long before microscopes or chemical analysis existed. Instead, science provides another language for describing truths that experienced growers understood through centuries of thoughtful practice. Every harvest, therefore, becomes both a continuation of history and an opportunity for new understanding. Each growing season offers slightly different weather, unique environmental conditions, and fresh opportunities to learn from the living plants themselves. Growers continue refining their methods while preserving traditions, that have already proven their value across generations. Researchers continue exploring the remarkable chemistry hidden inside each leaf. Tea masters continue preparing bowls with the same graceful movements practiced for centuries. Today, centuries after the first tea seeds were planted in Japanese soil, ceremonial matcha continues beginning its remarkable journey in exactly the same place it always has, among quiet mountain landscapes where nature still determines the rhythm of every growing season. Before a single leaf appears, the tea bushes have already spent the winter storing energy deep within their roots. As spring slowly returns, new buds awaken almost unnoticed, responding to subtle increases in daylight and warmer temperatures. The cycle begins again, with the same quiet confidence that has guided these gardens for generations. To an outside observer, each growing season may appear almost identical to the last. Yet experienced growers understand that no two harvests are ever truly the same. One spring may arrive a little earlier, another may bring cooler nights or heavier rainfall. Morning mists may linger longer over one valley than another. A passing storm may briefly delay the installation of the shade structures or slow the development of the newest leaves. These small differences accumulate throughout the season, shaping the chemistry developing inside every plant. No amount of planning can eliminate nature's influence, and that unpredictability is accepted as part of producing exceptional tea. Rather than resisting those changes, tea growers have learned to welcome them. Every harvest tells its own story. Some years produce especially sweet matcha with remarkable richness, while others are remembered for their freshness or unusually vibrant color. Experienced producers often speak of each harvest almost the way musicians speak about individual performances. The same knowledge, the same techniques, and the same careful preparation may be present every year, yet each season possesses its own unique character that can never be repeated exactly. This appreciation for subtle variation has become one of ceremonial matcha's defining qualities. Unlike products designed to remain perfectly uniform regardless of changing conditions, exceptional matcha reflects the living world from which it came. The weather, the mountain air, the condition of the soil, and the timing of the harvest all leave their gentle signature upon the finished tea. Long before satellites monitored weather systems or laboratories measured amino acid concentrations, growers had already learned to recognize the signals provided by the plants themselves. They watched how leaves responded to changing sunlight. They noticed the effects of cool mornings and warm afternoons. They compared one harvest with another until patterns slowly emerged. Their discoveries were not made through sudden inspiration, but through countless seasons of patient attention. Modern science has since confirmed many of those observations with precision. Researchers now understand how chlorophyll production increases beneath controlled shade. They can explain why L-theanine remains at higher concentrations when sunlight is reduced, and how gentle steaming prevents oxidation from altering the chemistry of freshly harvested leaves. Sophisticated instruments reveal the structure of individual molecules and measure changes too small for human senses alone to detect. Yet these scientific discoveries do not replace the quiet wisdom accumulated across generations. Instead, they reveal just how accurate those early observations truly were. That is one of the most inspiring aspects of ceremonial matcha. It reminds us that careful observation remains one of humanity's greatest scientific tools. Before there were laboratories, there were curious people paying close attention to the natural world. Before chemical formulas explained why a shaded tea leaf became sweeter, There were growers willing to experiment patiently across decades, sometimes lifetimes, preserving what they learned for those who followed. The remarkable tea enjoyed today exists because countless individuals chose to observe first, understand second, and improve only when nature revealed the proper path forward. Even now, somewhere among the quiet hills surrounding Uji and Japan's other celebrated tea regions, another generation of growers is continuing that tradition. Young tea bushes are being pruned. Soil is being tended beneath the surface. Shade structures are being inspected before another spring harvest. Granite stone mills await their next season of patient work. Every stage continues because the knowledge supporting it remains alive, carried not only through books and scientific research, but through hands that still perform the same thoughtful tasks year after year. Looking across those emerald hillsides one final time, ceremonial grade matcha has never been simply a drink. It is the living record of centuries spent learning from a single remarkable plant. It is the story of mountains wrapped in morning mist, of shaded leaves changing their chemistry, of careful hands harvesting only the youngest spring growth, of patient aging, slowly turning granite stones, and traditions preserved because they consistently revealed nature at its very best. No single person created ceremonial matcha as we know it today. Instead, thousands of growers, monks, craftsmen, tea masters, and researchers each contributed a small piece of understanding. One generation discovered that certain mountain valleys produced sweeter leaves. Another refined the timing of the harvest. Others improved steaming techniques, perfected the carving of granite mills, shaped more effective bamboo whisks, or learned how careful storage preserved delicate aromas. Individually, each improvement may have seemed modest. The story also reminds us that the greatest advances often come from asking not how to make something faster, but how to make it better. Throughout much of history, human progress has been measured by increased speed and greater efficiency. Ships crossed oceans more quickly. Machines produced more goods in less time. Communication accelerated until messages traveled around the world almost instantly. Ceremonial matcha followed a different philosophy. At nearly every important stage, its producers deliberately slowed the process. They shaded the plants for weeks. They harvested only the youngest leaves. They steamed them gently, allowed prepared tincture to mature, and accepted that a granite mill might spend an entire hour producing enough powder for only a few bowls. The remarkable quality of ceremonial matcha exists precisely because someone repeatedly chose patience over haste. Nature rewards that patience in remarkable ways. Chlorophyll accumulates beneath the shade until the leaves glow with an almost luminous emerald color. Amino acids remain balanced because sunlight has been limited. Delicate aromas survive because friction and heat are minimized during grinding. Every stage protects rather than forces. Every decision preserves rather than overwhelms. It is a process built upon listening to the needs of a living plant instead of demanding that it conform to the fastest possible schedule. This gentle partnership explains why ceremonial matcha has endured while countless other traditions have gradually disappeared. It never depended upon fashion or novelty. Its foundations rest upon biology that has remained unchanged for millions of years. Tea plants still respond to sunlight exactly as they always have. Their roots still gather minerals from fertile soils. Their leaves still perform photosynthesis with precision. The science hidden inside every tea garden remains timeless. allowing each new generation to rediscover the same remarkable truths through careful observation. Walking through those gardens today, it is easy to imagine how little the plants themselves have changed despite the passing centuries. The tea bushes neither know nor care that the world beyond the mountains has entered the modern age. They continue responding only to rainfall, temperature, daylight, fertile soil, and the changing seasons. Each spring, they produce another generation of tender leaves, offering growers the opportunity to begin the remarkable journey once again. In return, those growers continue offering the same careful stewardship their families have practiced for generations, trusting that patience, observation, and respect for nature will produce an exceptional harvest. A single evergreen shrub growing on quiet mountain slopes has connected so many different fields of human knowledge. Agriculture taught growers how to cultivate healthy plants. Botany revealed the remarkable biology hidden inside every leaf. Chemistry explained the compounds responsible for color, aroma, sweetness, and umami. History preserved the journey of tea from ancient China into Japan. Buddhism shaped the traditions that encouraged mindfulness during preparation. Craftsmanship refined the bowls, whisks, scoops, and stone mills that continue serving tea today. Few foods bring together so many branches of knowledge with such quiet elegance. Even after learning every stage of its remarkable journey, the finished bowl remains wonderfully simple. A small amount of brilliant green powder rests inside a handcrafted bowl. Warm water is added at precisely the right temperature. A bamboo whisk moves back and forth until a smooth layer of delicate foam appears across the surface. The entire preparation may take only a few moments, yet hidden inside that brief ritual are months of careful cultivation and centuries of accumulated understanding. The simplicity we see at the end is possible only because of the complexity that came before it. Somewhere, as another dawn breaks across the mountains of Japan, fresh mist is drifting through quiet tea gardens. Dew rests upon emerald leaves, while birds greet the morning from nearby cedar forests. Beneath those peaceful hillsides, roots gather water from the soil. Above them, new leaves prepare to capture another day of sunlight before their transformation begins, beneath placed shade. The story of ceremonial grade matcha has never truly ended. A single tea leaf begins life beneath open skies, drawing energy from sunlight, water, and fertile soil. Skilled growers then guide its journey with remarkable care, changing the conditions around the plant until its own biology transforms the chemistry hidden within each delicate leaf. From there, generations of knowledge carry it forward through careful harvesting, gentle steaming, patient aging, and the slow turning of granite stones, preserving qualities that can never be recreated once lost. Its true distinction lies in the understanding that excellence cannot be separated from patience. Every remarkable characteristic exists because someone, somewhere along the journey, chose to slow down rather than hurry forward. The growers waited for the perfect harvest. The processors protected the leaves instead of rushing them. The stone mills accepted hours of careful work where faster machines would have sacrificed quality. Even the tea ceremony itself asks us to pause, to notice, and to appreciate the quiet beauty that surrounds a single shared bowl. That is why ceremonial matcha continues to inspire people throughout the world. It reminds us that the finest creations are often not the result of dramatic breakthroughs, but of countless thoughtful decisions made over many generations. Nature provides the remarkable chemistry. Human curiosity slowly uncovers its secrets. So the next time you see the vivid green color of ceremonial matcha swirling inside a handcrafted bowl, you may find yourself seeing much more than tea. You may picture mountain valleys wrapped in morning mist, rows of shaded tea bushes changing their chemistry beneath woven screens, skilled hands selecting only the youngest spring leaves, and ancient granite stones turning almost imperceptibly as they patiently transform delicate tincture into one of the finest powders ever created from a living plant. Hidden inside every sip is a journey that stretches across centuries, connecting science with tradition, agriculture with artistry, and the quiet wisdom of nature with generations of people who chose to listen enough to understand it. Thank you for joining me on tonight's journey through the remarkable story of aged ceremonial grade matcha tea. If you enjoyed this relaxing exploration through history, science, and nature, I'd love for you to subscribe and join us again. New sleep stories are posted every other day, with many more peaceful adventures waiting for you in the playlist. Until next time, sleep well, dream peacefully, and I'll see you in the next story.